Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the UMass Icons Info session. This is the first one for our summer. We have one more tomorrow. I'm just so excited to see so many first and second year students here tonight from really all over the world. I capture where you're from, and we have people from obviously Massachusetts, all over New England, the United States, and all over the world. Um, and I say first and second year students. I did have some questions about grad students being part of the program. Unfortunately, you cannot be a part of the program. Perhaps you could be a TA one day, but this is for incoming freshmen and rising sophomores, or those students who have at least 3 years remaining. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So thank you so much again for taking the time to learn about the UMass Icons program. My name is Wesley Dunham. I am the Strategic Communication and Program Manager for the UMass Icons program. And I am the only staff person. I work with two faculty members who are our leadership team. Uh, and I work with all our instructors and our students. So I do everything that needs to be done to keep Icons moving. So if you have any questions, you would have received emails if you're here from me and from the Icons account. Please let me know. Um, Tonight we're happy to have a panel of students and our executive director, Scott Auerbach. Scott is also the current instructor for what we call Icons 4, which is your final experience within the program. And Scott may talk a little bit about this, but he is one of the founding members of Icons. And other than some, typical faculty sabbaticals, he has been here through the entire program and has seen it grown. So it's wonderful to have you, Scott. Thank you. And our students here tonight will introduce themselves. So I'm not going to, call their names out just yet. I'll introduce them shortly. Our goal tonight is to provide you with more information about what the UMass Icons program is. From mostly a student perspective, we're hopefully going to answer all your questions, but I don't think we will, especially if they're very specific to something. But please, if you have any questions, you can certainly ask by raising your hand after one of our panelists, or type in the chat and we'll do our best to answer it either in the chat, or I can ask it to a particular person or at some point ask that question. Again, if you have any questions that aren't answered tonight, please email me and I will do my best to give you the best answer. And we can answer UMass specific questions too if you have them. And so again, thank you for everyone. Thank you to our students, to Scott Auerbach. And now I'd like to have Scott take us into the world of Icons.
Thank you so much, Wesley. Thank you to all the Icon students here who have very generously agreed to join us tonight to share their experiences. And of course, thank you to everybody who's here tonight who's interested to learn about icons. So I'm going to bring up some slides right now, and I'm going to endeavor to share my screen. And here we go, share. And there it is. Can you all see that? Is that the big, can you see the big picture? Excellent. Okay. So I'd like to tell you a bit about the UMass Icons program. First of all, ICON stands for something. It stands for Integrated Concentration in STEM. So there is a STEM emphasis of icons, but I want to emphasize that icons is open to any student who's majoring in a STEM major, science, technology, engineering, math, and that's 4 or 5 different colleges on campus. Anybody who's a business major in the Eisenberg School of Management, and anybody who's in the policy program. The reason why it's important to bring all those together is that's what it takes to solve real world problems. And that's what Icons is about. So my goal here, I have a very targeted goal from my remarks, which is I want to get you excited about the idea of applying to icons. And the reason for that is that I think that you need icons to prepare you for success in the real world. But I also think that the real world needs you to take icons. Why is that? Well, unfortunately, there's no shortage of problems in the world. So in this slide, we see that we're still burning fossil fuel, 80% of our energy, still after all these years. Maybe it's all the way down to 78%, but it's still coming from fossil fuels. Mounting garbage. We used to send our recycling to China so it can be reprocessed, but with the growth of their economy, they're not taking it anymore. So we're just mounting piles of garbage. Climate change is redistributing water all over the planet, which is putting food security at risk all over the planet. And I haven't even mentioned infectious disease, COVID, cancer. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm a little concerned about the future. But the good news, there's good news. And the good news is that every real world problem could be a great educational opportunity. And that's what we're about in Icons. We're about bringing these problems of your choosing, into the classroom and the lab and the research experience so that you can bring your skills and your knowledge to the real world. How do we do that? The Icons approach is bringing diverse teams of students. This is the key. Diverse teams of students working on today's big problems. And diversity is the key because there's not one, whether you're an engineer, say a physical scientist, maybe somebody in math or finance, maybe environmental science, maybe management, maybe psychology, whatever your field is, that's critical field. But that field alone is probably not enough to tackle these big multifaceted problems. So that's why we need to have disciplinary diversity, human diversity, to come together and really crack these problems. So that's the essence of Icons, diverse teams of students working on today's big problems. Now, why do students come to Icons? This shows actually back in the COVID days, a group of Icon students working together, and we asked them, why did you decide to come to Icons? And as you can imagine, a diversity of students, a diversity of answers. So I'm not going to go through all these, but for example, Diana didn't want to get stuck in a certain corner of thought. She wanted to connect different ways of thinking. Antonia was excited about gaining skills that she knew companies would want. So she would be really competitive. Amanda, she just wanted to work on something real. And there's a whole range of different reasons why people come to Icons. Maybe your reason is on the slide. Maybe your reason isn't. That's okay. Your reason is still valid, and we want you to apply to Icons. So what is Icons? In terms of a program, it's a certificate. It's not a major. You should be, to be eligible, you should be majoring in some field of STEM or business or policy. And you bring your knowledge and expertise from that major into Icons. And then Icons so the major is like the cake, and Icons is like the icing on the cake. And there are 3 tracks that you can apply for. One in biomedicine, focusing on health of people, health of the planet. The other in clean energy, learning how to generate sufficient and sustainable energy. And finally, food, water, climate. This is 3 words, but one huge problem for the reason that I mentioned before, climate change, redistributing water, which puts food security at risk. The way that these 3 tracks play out is, and I should say that this grid here is the way your college experience will look. So you'll be in college for 4 years, and you have fall and spring. And so what we find is there's, roughly speaking, 2 ways to flow through Icons. And this picture shows one of those 2 ways. So one way is that you apply as a first-year student. You would be applying in your first-year fall semester, so your very first semester of college. And then if you get into Icons and you decide to do it, then you'd start Icons 1 in the spring of your first year. And you'd take 1 course per year for the first 3 years. So you'd take a course on learning how to work on case studies and teams. You'd take a course on, and this should say biomed, energy, and food, water, climate here. You'd take a course on communication, and then you would take a course on basically something related to laboratory or prototyping your solution. So 1 course per year for the first 3 years, and then a senior project. And that senior project is something you get to choose. It's where you get to pick a hard problem and try to solve it. So, and what I want to emphasize about this is that this is something about icons. And I should emphasize also that um, you won't find the icons program like this in any other university. So icons is something special to UMass, and that's something that we'd like to emphasize. This is an opportunity that you get because you're coming to UMass, but that's why you should definitely swing at this pitch. You should definitely try to apply. Um, and one of the things that makes icons really work is that all of these courses count for stuff you need to take. So this is Icons 1 is a gen ed. Icons 2 counts for the writing course. Icons 3 counts for an upper level lab. And if you're in the honors college, and I emphasize you don't need to be in the honors college to do icons, about half of our students are, half of our students are not. This is your honors thesis, slots into here. So it fits into your schedules. Now, I want to mention that there's a second way to do icons, which is if you decide, you know what, I just want to have a year of college under my belt. I'd like to start icons as a second year student, as a sophomore. That's totally fine. That's great. We got a lot of students who do that. You would apply to icons in your second semester fall. You would take icons 1 here and you would spread icons 2 and 3 over year 3. Um, and so, for example, if you decide to do biomed or energy track, then you would do icons 2 and 3 in this semester. We've had tons of students do it, and it works great. So anyway, bottom line is, just like Wesley said before, if you're on campus for 3 years, you can fit the icons program. There's also questions about study abroad. Yes, you can study abroad. We see that there are 2 semesters here where there's no icons. You can study abroad. You can even study abroad for an entire year if you play your cards right and you plan out your entire 4 years of college. So you have a lot of flexibility. Okay, so I just want to give you a quick flavor of different kinds of icons experiences. Here's a team of students who got excited about working on antibiotic resistance, and they wanted to focus on what's called catheter-borne hospital-acquired infections. This was something that was very meaningful to a couple of these students because a couple of their family members had gotten sick this way. And they decided, they got so excited about working on this incredibly important real world problem, they used all 4 icons courses, all 4 years of icons to focus on this. They got so expert on it that they decided to start a company, and using the entrepreneurship ecosystem at UMass, they raised $70,000 for their company. So this is an example. One thing you can do is if you know what you want to do, not everybody does, but if you know what you want to do, you can use the icons program as a platform to work on that. Another area that was very important for icons is the fact that UMass by law has to get to net zero carbon emissions. And so that's obviously good news, but the bad news is we are the largest emitter of carbon emissions of all state agencies in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which means we have a long way to go from 126,000 metric tons down to 0. And so that is an awesome opportunity for icon students to get involved. They've studied a range of different technologies that UMass is starting to incorporate into their portfolio. So this is how icons is making a difference on campus. So what are your next steps? Well, you've done the first one, which is you've gotten into UMass and you're coming. So travel safely, have a good move in, check. The second one is that we have an application, so we're asking you to apply. And we can, if you're interested to know about the application, I'm happy to share information on that with you. But more importantly, we have an entire support session, and the Zoom window is covering, so I can't see, but it's October 8th. There it is. October 8th, we're going to have another Zoom session where you can learn more about the application, and you'll actually get advice from students about what are strategies for navigating the application. The deadline to apply to icons is Tuesday, October 15th, And we also have something in the fall called the Idea Slam, which gives you a flavor for what the Icons experience is. The date for that is October 22nd, and you are all cordially invited to join that. You're wondering, how do you get information? You go to this website. This is your one-stop shopping for all information about Icons. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming today. And I want to emphasize that we are here to answer any question you have. And I also want to emphasize that Icons is something that's not only critical for your education, but it's critical for the world. So the world needs you to apply.
What did I freeze or did you, Scott? I frozen? Ah,
Okay. Hey, Wesley, we lost you just for a sec. You're on mute now.
sorry, I was like, did I freeze or did you? And apparently it was me. Sorry about that. Um,
Okay.
you're done, right, Scott?
I'm all set. Yep.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I'm throwing it back to
Um,
you. Did you restart the recording?
Said recording in progress, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
excellent. Okay,
Um,
so back to you.
two questions came up during your talk. One was about study abroad, and you did highlight that. And I don't think you said it specifically, but you did mention you could study for a year. So yes, you can study abroad in the fall. It's if you have anything that sort of might be happening, that might take you away from an icons class. It's awesome to talk to me as soon as you can so that we can plan accordingly because we can figure out how to double up a class one semester. But ideally it'd be in the fall. Fall is wonderful in a lot of countries, but you can be in the spring. And then the other question was about the application. It did go live today, and I put in the chat the website. It's a Google form, so you are able to apply today. And as Scott said, October 15th is the due date. There's no harm in applying early or late. We're not going to look at the materials. So, enjoy. All right, so now we're going to get into our student speakers. So again, thank you to all of them. I'm going to name them off the bat so you can see if you're looking at their little photos. We have Uma, Reagan, Emily, Daniel, and Maika. So thank you very much for joining us. And I'm first going to have Uma, who's a veteran of doing some of these info sessions, start us off. So hello, and I was gonna say good night, but that makes it sound like you're going to bed. Where are you, Uma?
Hi, yeah, not going to bed quite yet, but thank you for that intro. Like Wesley said, my name is Uma. I'm a rising junior at UMass studying psychology and BDIC. If you're unfamiliar, BDIC stands for Bachelor's Degree in an Individual Concentration, so you do get to make your own major. And with that, my major is behavioral economics. So kind of connecting back to icons, how you are pulling from different majors, BDIC is another way to do that. And when it comes to kind of why I chose UMass, and how I got into icons, it really was just that UMass had a lot of options. I'm an indecisive person. I figured I had to get my stuff together at some point, so I can go to a school that really enabled me to be a self-starter and pick from all the multitude of options there. I've taken icons 1, 2, and 3 since I'll be going abroad next year, so just wanted to plan ahead for that. And my most recent class with Icons 3, I was able to do a really cool project on researching the impact of different cooking oils like coconut oil or olive oil on a strand of bacteria on your gut microbiome. So pretty interesting. I would say a fun fact about myself is that I love food, so I'm glad that I was able to bring that into Icons. So yeah, pass it back to you, Wesley.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Uma. Your second major is BDIC, which is bachelor degree with individual concentration.
I say with and in
In,
interchangeably, so
right. We get such a large school, we get tied up in our acronyms and stuff. But BDIC it's kind of like a make your own major. I'm sure maybe they hate that, but that's what it is. How does the icon certificate fit well, or does it fit well with the BDIC program, with your classes and maybe with the mindset of a BDIC student?
Yeah, I would say it fits well with both things in terms of the classes, since Icons is about like one class a year, except for senior year, I've been able to take that one class as well as my 2 BDIC classes per semester, also an average recommendation that they have. In terms of the mindset, I would say that's where the most overlap is, being in icons, learning to work with people of different majors, work with people who think differently, and also be a BDIC student where I'm taking different classes, different disciplines, and trying to think that way myself, figure out my best way of learning. It's a great overlap. So glad to do both of the programs.
Wonderful, thank you. And Reagan, I think you're a new BDIC major, so maybe we'll have you chat about that in a little bit. Two questions that came up in the chat, not really for Uma, but one person asked about Community Scholars Program. Although I'm not familiar with exactly that program, I haven't seen a single program at UMass that would deter you from being in icons. We are a certificate program, and as long as classes don't overlap and have no other options, then typically you can do other programs. There's a lot of different things at UMass that students are doing. Scott, you came off mute. Do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, so this is the Community Scholars, sometimes it's called Civic Engagement and Service Learning. This is an outstanding program that we have at UMass. I happen to be good friends with a couple of the people who run it. And I would seriously encourage you to take a look at that. One of the things that they do is they prepare you to go into the community and work on real world problems in the community. And one of the things that's really great about that, in terms of meshing that with icons, is icons, from what icons you can get sort of a technical kind of foundation and how to bring technical ideas into the solution into the community. What the Community Scholars Program gives you is like the context of the community. What community are you going into? How do you communicate with them and stuff like that? And so then at some point, what you'll do as the Community Scholars is you'll have your big project. So the point of the whole program is to go in there and work on a problem. You're earning credit for that. And that can count for your so-called advanced study in Icons 4. So that's a great way that you can sort of have your cake and eat it too. I'm using cake analogies a lot here. It's because we had, wedding cake. My daughter just got married. So anyway, so I would encourage anybody who's interested in a community service academic activity to think about that. And icons can be a great way to get you that sort of technical foundation to succeed. And you can do it both. Now, I don't know if you can double major and do icons and do the community. So at some point, you have to draw the line. But I think you can do both.
Wonderful, thank you. There are some other questions, but I want to go to Reagan, and I won't lose your questions. So again, thank you, Uma. And now Reagan, if you can come off mute and say hello.
Hello. So like Leslie said, my name is Reagan. I'm also a BDIC major, so I usually describe it as a make your own major. I'm also pre-med, so my major is in health disparities. So sort of like the factors that would make someone not be able to get adequate access to healthcare. So things like race, gender, economic status, that sort of a thing. And that was like the real thing that brought me to UMass, was the fact that I could make my own major. And icons has really fit very well into that in the interdisciplinary sense. It really helps, in my opinion, sort of like show the interdisciplinaries within healthcare, because there's so much that impacts people and their health and how they take care of themselves. And it's really just eye-opening. I did my case study last year in Icons 1 on race and pulse oximetry. So that was really interesting.
Wonderful, good. I heard something which was great, because we have a lot of questions about, can I do icons if I want to be pre-med, or will icons help me if I'm pre-med? Now, Reagan, you've only done Icons 1, you're a rising sophomore, so you haven't been through the entire program. But at this point, knowing that you are pre-med and want to go to medical school, how do you think a program like Icons might set you apart or help you?
Yeah, so it definitely does fit in very well with the pre-med track. Um, but I think it'll really help me stand out definitely in the application process, specifically with just showing the fact that you can be so interdisciplinary when so many like other applicants are so like biology or chemistry. Just opening up your horizons to see like how different academics interact um, is definitely like a little green flag. Um, and like I said, just like it shows passion, the case studies that you're working on, and like the research projects that you do with icons, or that I imagine I will do with icons. But I'm super excited to work on that.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to answer one question that was in the chat. If you don't get selected first year, can you apply again next year? As long as you're a first year student now, yes, you can. And not getting in a year does not do anything to your application. It is a blind application in the sense that you are just a number when our admissions committee looks at you, and they don't know if you applied before. So it does not hurt you. If anything, maybe it helps you. You've been through the process before. But yes, you certainly can, as long as you're a first year student this year. So thank you. Great question. All right, Reagan, thank you so much. I'd like Emily now to say hello.
Hi, hello. Okay, my name is Emily. I'm a senior this year. I'm a biochemistry, computer science double major with a business minor. So I have a lot of classes going on, but I still have icons in my schedule. I did choose UMass because of like biochemistry is combined with molecular biology. So it's like one thing that a lot of other colleges like split up. So that was something I was interested in. And that's why I came to UMass. As well as like the research experience. So I know Icons has given me good research experience as well. But I also work in a lab on campus. And we study the brain-eating amoeba, which is kind of cool. A little scary. Scott knows about it because that's what my research project for Icons 4 has been in. So he's heard about it. And I enjoy doing a lot of things on campus. I'm an RA, so I'm actually already in my dorm, but it's a good experience and I enjoy icons a lot.
Wonderful. Emily, did you say you were a double major?
I am, and a minor.
Wonderful. All right, because a lot of people ask about that, and we just got a question about that. My one answer is certainly, everything depends, and there's about 20,000 different UMass experiences every year. But you are able to double major and handle icons, correct?
Yes, I did come in with some credits and I overloaded like 1 or 2 semesters. So I have put in like the extra work, but I'm already at like a lot of credits. So technically I could have graduated, but there's definitely time if you spread and organize your schedule correctly.
Wonderful.
And yeah, I'm graduating in 4 years. So this is my 4th year at UMass.
Great, thank you so much. All right, one question that was in the chat, I just want to answer. Someone asked, majoring in microbio and minoring in psychology, would that have any effect on the application? No. As Scott said, as long as you're in STEM, business policy, and I like to throw in sometimes STEM adjacent majors like landscape architecture, resource economics, sustainable community development, some of those majors that still work on climate, renewable energy, our built environment and that type thing, and minoring. Again, it's 20,000 different stories at UMass. Everyone's doing a different path. We have classes, so as long as things don't overlap, we can work with you. We are a small program with limited classes, but we try to be as flexible as possible and work with you. So, all right, thank you, Emily. And I'd like to ask Daniel to come on board.
Hey guys, I'm Daniel. I'm an environmental and civil engineer from the Concord area in Massachusetts. I came into UMass as an environmental engineer, and although my major is environmental and civil engineering, I thought for sure I'd be on the environmental side because, in high school I had a really big interest in renewable energy, and I thought, the environment, renewable energy, they're similar. Not the same thing, and I learned that pretty quickly. So as much as I wanted to be involved in renewable energy, just through the environmental side of engineering, that didn't end up happening. So pretty quickly, I looked for ways to get myself to be part of renewable energy, and that's how I found Icons. I found it pretty late. I actually applied like 3 minutes before the deadline finished, but I got in, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
Wonderful. Daniel, I don't think I have you confused, but I feel like you and Margaret Williams came to me as freshmen or newly minted sophomores, with an idea and a passion for some sort of project, and you wanted to see, you know, Scott got me thinking about it with the Microblaster story, where they came up with something in Icons 1 and took it through. Can you talk a little bit about that? You have an idea with this other Icon student, her name is Margaret Williams, that you want to somehow see through. Is that still a thing? Can you talk about the project and how you may incorporate that idea into Icons to use that time,
Totally.
wisely?
So as much I wanted to get involved with renewable energy, and I knew that early on, and sometime in my sophomore year or end of freshman year, I started really getting involved with wind energy. UMass has a lot of involvement with that through research and just different aspects that you can get involved with. And one of those was the Wind Energy Club, who started doing a senior design project, which is common through some of the engineering disciplines, but not all. And me and this other student, Margaret, wanted to get involved and see what we could do and see if we could bring in Icons to, facilitate this project. And right now, what it's looking like is we're trying to get a group of different engineers together, all through the college to put us together and see if we can come and solve the Wind Energy for Kids challenge that is held in the south of France in our senior year.
Wow.
Icons isn't sending us to the south of France unless, Scott Wesley, something's changed. But
always ask.
right now the idea is just to get involved with that fourth year Icons project and make that our project.
Wonderful. Well, obviously keep us posted. Icons will do everything in our power to, help move you forward. So that's wonderful. And that's just a great story. So thank you. I'm glad I remembered that you and Margaret you took me by surprise. It was awesome. All right. Thank you, Daniel. And now I'm going to move on to Mahika. If you can come online and say hello.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Mahika. I am an international student from India. I'm a senior computer science major. I chose UMass mainly because of its computer science program ranking. I did not know about Icons before I got in, but I'm really glad I got to know about it at in the right time, and I applied. I thought I did really bad in the interview, but I ended up getting it. And I really love the program. I got my first internship at Waters Corporation right after my freshman year through Icons program. So it's really, really great for just the connections that you build and the network that is available for you. I also got to be an undergraduate TA for Icons 2 last semester. So that was really fun. I just took that class, and like the next year I was able to TA for that class. I just have one more Icons 4 class that I'm taking this semester, and then I'll be done with Icons. But it has been really, really great.
Wonderful. So yeah, Mahika, I'm glad you talked about those extra opportunities that you've received from Icons, being able to have a TA, receive the internship from Waters, and this isn't exactly a question for you, but I want to just mention that Icons, although we're small, Scott and I and the rest of our instructors work tirelessly for all of you, and we do our best to make sure that you're all employed and have great internship opportunities. And there's a lot of things on campus that do that, and Icons is one. We love it and we think it's the best, but there's a lot, and so make the world smaller, make your UMass experience smaller by doing something, and Icons is one way that you can do that. And we try to make everybody's experience great. I'm excited about Daniel and Margaret's work. So thank you, Mahika, for talking about your
Glad. Also like really like just going and talking to Wesley and between the semester for like advising and stuff. My parents came here and they met
And your
Wesley.
sister.
Yeah, and they still talk, they still remember you and they still talk about you. I just worked with Scott this summer on a project, so it's been amazing.
Great. Oh, that's right. Yes, you were working with Scott this summer too, so that's great. Yeah, and again, there's opportunities. Every opportunity is not for every student. Last fall, we had a team. Maybe Scott, can you talk about the top team real quick?
Sure. Yeah, so we were contacted by the Department of Energy and the Census Bureau. We were one of 9 universities across the country that was asked to participate in a project. And the problem was the fact that with increasing severity of storms, there's a greater likelihood of lengthy power outages. And the problem is that depending upon your socioeconomic status, you may actually not have power for longer than other people. So, and there's some evidence for correlations between socioeconomic status and the length of a power outage. So the question is, and because this is the Census Bureau, they have access to tons of data. Can we come up with a evidence-based digital solution that can ease the burden? Now that's a very vague, open-ended kind of question. But what that is, it's very iconsy because it leaves a lot of room for different teams based on their interests and their expertise and their composition to come up with a solution that's of interest to them. So we had an icons team. We had 6 people on the team. It was a mix of math, computer science, engineering, environmental science. And what they came up with was the idea of making a map that was like a heat map for the entire country that indicated the extent of socioeconomic burden. So if it's like heat map is like, blue is low burden and red is high burden, then areas that are red means that they have anomalously long power outages. And so that means power utilities need to pay attention to those regions and maybe send more trucks to those regions a little sooner than they, otherwise would. And the exciting thing for the team was they got invited to a conference in Washington, D.C. to present their work. So it was, for so many of these students, this was like their top experience in college. And that's why and so I said top because it's top. Top is an acronym created by the Census Bureau called the Opportunity Project. And it's the opportunity to solve problems. So that was and I was the advisor for the top team. So that was super fun.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Scott. Thank you, Mahika. And this is now sort of our Q&A time where we are open. There were a lot of questions when folks registered. And I have some additional questions, but I wanted to make sure I got to all our students. One question that was in the chat was about factors that Icons looks for in an application. I don't want to give away the cake before the party. We do have our application support session on October 8th, and we'll go into this more detail. But you asked the question, and I'm sure everyone's excited about how do I get in? What can I do? One, be yourself, please. We do, and this is a good time to talk. We don't have requirements per se. You must be a UMass student, first or second year student, 3 years remaining in a major that will work for Icons. If you're in a major that seemingly won't work for Icons, please talk to me and we'll figure out, what your experience is and see what we can do. But those are the requirements. We don't look at SAT scores. We don't look at GPA. We don't look at honor status, anything like that. So be yourself. I think we want to see people who are inquisitive, who may be able to check their ego at the door and work and play well with others, to be sort of blunt. curious about the world and how it works, and interested to work with other people and communicate with people who know something different about a project, and be willing to stretch your comfort zone and step outside the box. So try to show those things, and that might help you. Scott, do you have an added point?
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that first of all, the application process is 2 steps. One involves writing down answers to questions, 3 questions, and the other is an interview, phone interview with one of the alums of the program. And with respect to the questions, one is about your past. What are some previous experiences or challenges that you've dealt with that position you to bring something interesting to the Icons program? Another is about your future, is where do you see yourself going in your career in 10 years? Of course, not everybody knows the answer to that, but we certainly don't know, and we're asking you to take a guess. And how does Icons help you to get there? And then the third question is, what's a real world problem that's super important to you, that has you at the edge of your seat? And what's the role of different fields coming together to try to solve that problem? And of course, we don't expect you to have the answer to that in the sense of like solving a real world problem, but we want to get a sense of where your interests are pointing. And another thing that you should be aware of is that we have different people reading the 3 answers. So don't assume when somebody's reading one of your answers that they know the other answers. So each of the 3 answers should be sort of a self-contained answer that doesn't rely on the other answers.
Great, thank you. Reagan, I have a question for you. Again, I said it earlier, you took Icons 1 this past spring. How did you find this class different from your other classes? Specifically, some of your like public health, your STEM related classes.
Yeah, so my other classes were very much so like you're learning the material, you're taking a test, and it's very like individualistic. The Icons classes are so collaborative, especially like Icons 1. You talk to so many different people and you really learn a lot of like teamwork and how to use your strengths, utilize your teammates' strengths to come together to make like one case study, one project, work on one thing. And I really like that about Icons, like the collaboration, using your strengths, and just like it was just a different aspect of learning that you don't get in your like regular classes where it's more of just kind of like you learn the content and then you regurgitate it. But yeah, I really appreciated that about Icons.
Great, thank you so much. One question that's in the chat is this program strictly for undergraduates? I'm a rising junior, but intend to do a 4+1 master's program. So, you know, class-wise, certainly, if you had 3 years, maybe you could do Icons 4 as a first-year master's student, but it's an undergraduate certificate. So I think technically and physically with the registrar's office, you are unable to get the certificate. I've never been asked this question. Scott, I don't know if you've ever asked this question, because as a rising junior with a 4+1, they are here for 3 years, but they'll be a master's student with 400 level credits, which is still considered undergrad. So
Yeah.
I-
Yeah, no, I don't think so in a 4+1, when you're doing the +1, you're doing in principle master's graduate level work, and those are normally 500 and 600 level courses. Icons goes all the way up to 499. So if we added 2 to that number, we get to 501. But so I, like Wesley, have never been asked that question before. So the good news is congratulations to you for stumping us. I don't absolutely rock solid know the answer, but my guess is that no.
Right. So Erica asked that question. Sorry, Erica. Again, it's an
Yeah.
undergraduate certificate. So we
Erica, if you pop your email into the chat, I will find out and I'll shoot you an email. Okay.
all right. I have a question for Emily. Emily, a little bit building off what Reagan just talked about. What's something about icons that's often overlooked by students, or like a cool part that you see?
Yeah, I think, well, I've done a lot of really cool collaborations with like the Museum of Science during Icons 1 and Icons 2. And like the collaboration is not something I've done with other classes. It's like I've been able to not only like go out and interview people and take a field trip to Boston to interview people for like more of the health side of things. But I've also got to work on like quantifying like carbon footprinting in Boston. And this past year in Icons 3 as well, I was able to do a project revolving around biogas. So I got to actually visit local farms and talk to them about how they would utilize biogas. So that's like definitely something that you don't get to do in other classes. And it definitely depends on like what your interests are, but there's the opportunity to actually do things in the community and have a real like impact in the community that people don't normally get to do in classes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Scott, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
People always ask when it comes to application and getting in. What's the acceptance rate? for
Well,
getting
of course,
into
it depends on the number of applications. But it's in recent years been less than 50%, meaning that most students do not get in to icons. However, because of the fact that you can apply again as a sophomore, will increase that. So I would say it's ballpark about 50%.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Yes, again, it does depend on the number of applicants. We are taking 108 students this coming semester.
Mhm.
Question for Daniel. Daniel, you are a civil engineering major, correct?
Correct.
And that's a pretty demanding major. And I know we have, I'm sure we have, not knowing exactly who's on, engineering majors with us tonight. Can you speak to the time commitment for the two icons class? You've taken two, icons 1 and 2, right?
Mhm.
Two icons classes you've taken. Are they more or less than other classes? Do they fit well? That sort of thing.
Right. I mean, I think it's different to everyone with course how they work, what they enjoy doing. You know, a lot of the time with engineering classes, a lot of things can mesh together. And some classes I don't want to do. You know, I don't want to do this class, the homework for this class right after I do the homework for another class, just because I feel they're too similar. And for me, icons was a really good change up in that it was completely different to a lot of the other classes I was doing. The work I was being required to do was completely different. And honestly, it was what I wanted to do. So, you know, when you want to be doing something, you spend more time doing it. You know, you go the extra mile. And for me, that was really nice to be able to break up, you know, math 1, math 2, math 3, math 4. So yeah, that I think it depends, but for me, it was very manageable. And it was honestly helpful.
Great. And one other aspect, I believe Scott talked a little bit about it, about how our classes fit. You know, and I ask you this because I know a lot of engineers are worried about their time. It's a very structured course. Icons 2, which you took last spring, that counts as your junior year writing. So that's
Mhm.
one class you don't need to take. You know, so, and hopefully Icons 3 will count, depending, you know, if you take whichever one you take and for your major and stuff, should count as a 300 level elective. Each engineering major has a little bit of different, but a free elective or tech elective, something like that. So again, our classes, we attempt to be credit neutral. And then thank you for talking about your experience with that. Uma, I have a question for you. Um, how do you think well, I kind of already asked this to you. So I'm going to ask Mahika. How do you think icons will help you in your major, computer science major?
I think it's the aspect of working with interdisciplinary teams. I've done internships in the past, and not everybody has the same technical background as you. And they have different backgrounds, so you want to communicate your ideas to a non-technical audience. That's something that we really focus on at Icons, communicating technical things to a non-technical audience. I think that has really helped me in my internships and will probably help me in my full-time job as well. And it's like working with teams. Every Icons class is mostly team-based, so you get to work with a diverse set of people with different skills and talents. So you know how to best get the best out of the group given the group background. So I think that really fits in well with my major and my future plans.
Wonderful. There's a lot of activity on the chat. And some things are being answered. Thank you, Mahika. What if, one question from Cheryl Lynn, what if you're interested in I think combining two areas of interest? I need to know a little bit more, but if you're saying maybe talking about our tracks, and if that was, again, there might be some things that other people are answering. So I'm hoping other people can see these things in the chat and if they're following. Scott, did you answer?
Mhm.
Oh, Uma answered it. Uma, do you want to talk about your answer about if it has to do with tracks, what your thoughts were?
Yeah, I can dive a little bit deeper on that. So with tracks, when I first applied, there were only 2 tracks, so it's exciting that it's now 3, and don't want to speak to any changes that may have come with that. But to my experience, Icons 1, everyone's in the same like cohort, you're all in the same class together. And then Icons 2, you can either, for me at least, I was able to pick a renewable energy class, or I was able to pick a biomedicine class. I was interested in biomedicine, so I chose that class and stuck with that for Icons 3, but you don't necessarily take your class with other people. For instance, like I didn't really know people in the renewable energy class. However, I remember at the end of the semester, people from the other Icons 2 class came into my class and presented a little bit and vice versa. So it was nice that you got that sort of interaction, and obviously with Icons kind of posting about it, you're able to know what people are up to. But that's my latest understanding of it. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah, so that's absolutely correct. What we do is everybody comes in and regardless of the track that you've chosen when you applied, everybody is just all thrown in together and they all take Icons 1 together. Now you have freedom over the kinds of problems that you study in Icons 1. So if you decided to take, say, if you're interested in food, water, climate, then you have the freedom to focus on for example, a food-related problem in Icons 1, or a health-related problem, or an energy-related problem. But in Icons 2, you do split into the focused, the biomed, the energy, and the food, water, climate. And that's why we have this concept of tracks, because Icons 2 and 3, the idea is that you pick the problem area that is the thing that's really animating your interest, and then you get concentrated training in that in Icons 2 and 3. That's where the icons comes from. It's integrated concentration. So you're getting that concentrated training in a problem area. You pick that problem area and you take Icons 2, which gives you communication skills, and Icons 3, which gives you lab and prototyping skills in that area. Then in Icons 4, you're doing your senior project, and in principle, one would imagine that it would relate to your main area of interest. And you can kind of think of, let's say we have 40 students, or maybe when you're seniors, 60 students taking Icons 4, they'll be working on a range of different projects, but they'll all be together doing their senior seminar where they're learning advanced communication and reflection skills. So that's kind of the way the trajectory through Icons works. You're all together in Icons 1. You split into your individual tracks for Icons 2 and 3. And then in Icons 4, you're doing some sort of advanced study project advised by a faculty member, but you're all together working on advanced communication and reflection.
Thank you. I love all the discourse happening in the chat. So thank you to our Icon students for helping out the applicants or the potential applicants. Scott, we're getting down to it, but I do, one thing that people like to, outcomes. What is it?
Mhm.
Process is important, outcomes is everything.
You
Um,
got it.
and everyone's different, and people have to
Mhm.
understand that. But we have this program. What do our alumni do? Like, what
Yeah.
you have to go into STEM to be in this? I mean, are these all wet lab people,
No,
things like that?
no,
What
no,
do our
no,
alumni do?
no. So, yeah, so in short, they do whatever they want to do in the sense that Icons helps you to have the experience on campus so that you can get the internship or key experience off campus so that when you're done with college, you have the opportunity to punch your ticket to either get that top job that you want to get that many of our students do go to grad school. So to get into a top grad school in your field, many of our students want to go to medical school. So to get into a medical school, one of your top choice schools. So we've had students go to law school, to dental school, to veterinary school. We've had students go in to industry, go into education. We've had Icon students be so excited about this education model that they want to bring that in to education. I mean, we've had Icon students start companies, so entrepreneurship. We've had Icon students go into government relations. I mean, in principle, you go anywhere you want. And on top of that, one of the fun things about Icons is it helps you during your 4 years of college discover where you want to go. So, I mean, that's kind of a short, almost a glib answer is you go wherever you want to go. But the point is that Icons, and I've talked to colleagues in other schools, and I talked to this one fellow who is running a program on energy for undergraduates, and I say, where do your students go when they're done? He's like, well, of course they all go to grad school. That's the point of the program. And I said, well, don't you want to ask your students where they want to go? And that's definitely the difference with Icons. We are a student-centered, a student-driven program. So we will ask you at some point in your Icons, trajectory, well, what do you want to do? And then we'll work with you to position Icons to help you get there.
Right. All right. Well, we have 1 minute. We want to be conscious of everyone's time. Again, thank you. I'm going to say thank you for all the students. And so, again, your time and everyone who's joined us. Scott, I want to let you give us parting words. And again, email me if you have any questions that were not answered. All right. Or if you
Thank you so much. Well, I want to thank you to Wesley for doing an outstanding job of pulling us together. Thank you to all the Icon students for sharing your pearls of wisdom. Thank you to all the prospective applicants for showing your interest. And I just want to leave you with one thought, which is that in the time that we've been talking, unfortunately, this is kind of a buzz dump, but unfortunately, the problems that we've been talking about haven't solved themselves. In fact, they've probably gotten a little bit worse. And so the world absolutely needs people to come out of college with the attitudes, knowledge, and experience that Icons, provides. So I ask you to consider applying to Icons. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for the world. And if you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to let us know. Thank you all, and I wish you all a great night.
Thank you, everyone.